What's up, Planeswalkers? It's your boy K-Dog. Another fun video for you guys. This one we're back in Historic with another land destruction deck. And so this one we're focused around the saga Fall of the Thran. For 5 and white, we get a 3-chapter saga. When it enters the battlefield, we destroy all lands. That includes our own, so it's something we'll have to kind of play around a little bit. However, chapters 2 and 3, each player returns 2 land cards from their graveyard to the battlefield. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to make sure that our opponent does not have any lands to return, and essentially making it kind of a one-sided board wipe as far as lands are concerned. So using Orzhov spells, we're trying to control the board as much as we can. Play Fall of the Thran, lock our opponent out of being able to play anything because they have no lands left. And when chapters 2 and 3 go off, we get our lands back, but our opponent does not. And how we're going to do that here is with another enchantment here. Leyline of the Void, it's 2 black. If Leyline of Void is in opening hand, we can start with it on the battlefield. Don't have to pay for it, it just enters and its effects will already start taking place. And if it says, if a card will be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. So we're running all 4 copies of this. We want this in our opening hand as much as possible. Obviously, there's going to be some removal for it, so we need 4 copies just to make sure that we have one of these guys out as consistently as possible. And then we get control of the board, or at least make sure our opponent isn't threatening us. And then we can drop our Fall of the Thran, and all their lands now go to exile. They don't get anything back. Fall of the Thran, chapters 2 and 3 go off. We get our lands back. Our opponent gets nothing. So that's kind of the basic idea of the deck. And how we're going to get there is 3 copies of Birth of Meletis. Just a fantastic saga here at 2 mana. We get a search up for a basic plains, then we get a 0/4 wall down, and then we get a little bit of life. So it always has something relevant against pretty much any deck. Always gets us a plains so we can kind of curve out. Puts a 4 toughness blocker down, and also gains a little bit of life against those more aggressive matchups. A couple of main deck Agonizing Remorse for those a little bit of hand disruption here. Look at our opponent's hand, choose any non-land card from it, or even potentially something from their graveyard, and exile it. Exiling is something that can be very important. Obviously, Leyline of the Void exiles as well. We do have payoff that we are about to get to here in a second. Another thing to help us get set up is a couple copies of Arguel's Bloodfast. It's just a fun little 2-mana enchantment. Pay 1 in black and 2 life to draw a card. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 5 life or less, you may transform Arguel's Bloodfast. And if it transforms, you can tap it for black, or you can tap it and sacrifice a creature to gain life equal to that creature's toughness. So obviously this works really well with Birth of Meletis. So for example, we can just our opponent goes to combat, they attack in, we use our 0/4 wall to block and kind of prevent some damage. And then while that combat damage is on the stack, we can just sacrifice that creature, gain the 4 life from the 4 toughness of the wall, and help us kind of stay alive a little bit longer while we're getting set up, looking for our removal and board wipes and things like that. Also running 3 copies of Cast Down, just a fantastic 2-mana instant speed removal. Destroy a target non-legendary creature. So there are some legendaries obviously, but this is going to hit like 90% of the creatures out there, and at 2-mana instant speed, Cast Down is just a beautiful removal spell. Same thing with Banishing Light, 3-mana enchantment to exile any non-land permanent on our opponent's side. So we have a lot of creature removal here in the main 60, so we also need ways to deal with enchantments, artifacts, planeswalkers, and that kind of thing. And Banishing Light is just going to be our kind of utility removal spell. And for win conditions, we're running a couple copies of Gideon, just a fantastic 4 loyalty, 3-mana planeswalker against certain control decks. He can be just kind of an unstoppable force in and of himself. So just a fantastic option here to help us attack in and close out games that way, especially when our opponent doesn't have any lands left. They can't even do it, can't even do anything about it. Even if they had removal in their hand, they can't do anything with no lands. So Gideon can just keep attacking in for 4. And of course he doesn't die to any of our own board wipes because he is indestructible. And as far as exiling here, we have Kaya, Orzhov, Usurper, 3-mana, 3 loyalty planeswalker. We can +1 to exile 2 target cards from any graveyard, and as long as one of those cards was a creature, we gain 2 life. So just kind of gives us a little bit more redundancy for exiling our opponent's graveyard. Also, we can -1 to exile any non-land permanent with mana cost 1 or less. Obviously, in Historic, there are a number of 1-mana permanents that we will want to hit with Kaya. But ultimately here, we're looking at the -5. We can deal damage to target player equal to the number of cards that player owns in exile, and we gain that much life. So life gain, just kind of a nice little bonus. We're just trying to exile as much as we can on our opponent's side. Leyline of Void will obviously help us get there, especially once we hit our Fall of the Thran, or just wipe their board with the Kaya's Wrath or something like that. Then they just get a ton of stuff in exile, and then Kaya can just hit them for 10 points of damage at a time. So we're just going to plus, plus, plus until we get to 10, and then we can -5 2 turns in a row, and Kaya herself can just win you the game sometimes. For more interaction though, we need 3 copies of Mortify. Instant speed, we can destroy a creature or enchantment. So obviously if our opponent's running enchantments, so Mortify is going to give us some good game against them, especially like the white enchantments that try to hit our Kaya or Gideon. We can just Mortify that and get our Planeswalker back. Or just having some instant speed removal for creatures works really well against those aggressive decks like Gruul and things like that. So of course all 4 copies Leyline of the Void. I'm also running 1 copy of Phyrexian Scriptures. It's a 4 mana, 3 chapters saga. It says when it comes down, you get a +1 counter on up to 1 target creature. So if you don't have any creatures out, you don't have to target anything like your opponent's creatures. You don't have to. It's a May ability. And the second chapter of those, we destroy all non-artifact creatures. So obviously there are a couple artifact decks running around out there, but they're pretty few and far between. So we will just sideboard this out in those matchups. But then chapter 3, we exile all cards from all opponents' graveyards. So we're just trying to get some little bit extra redundancy for graveyard interaction, because obviously the Leyline of Void, while it's mostly going to get the job done, you can't always count on it. So just having a couple of little extra effects to exile lands and whatnot from our opponent's graveyard. And so Phyrexian Scriptures is kind of a Leyline of the Void and a Kaya's Wrath, which we're running 3 of. The double white, double black, we're just in Orzhov colors anyway, so this is fine for us to cast. We destroy all creatures, and if we have any of our 0 for walls out or anything like that, we gain life equal to the number of creatures that were destroyed this way. So oftentimes it will gain us 1 or 2 life and clear our opponent's board. And we're also running a couple copies of Angel of Grace and a couple copies of Lyra Dawnbringer. Those are our other win conditions. Angel of Grace here is pretty fantastic as it has a flash. So it's a 5/4 Angel for 5 mana. When it enters the battlefield, damage that would reduce your life total to less than 1 reduces it to 1 instead. So if you are falling behind and you're kind of struggling to keep up, Angel of Grace can kind of flash in out of nowhere. And just when your opponent thinks they have lethal, with like their Ember Cleave or whatever, you can just bring an Angel of Grace, and your life total just goes back to 1, and then you could potentially find your Kaya's Wrath or whatever you need on the following turn, and just kind of lock him out at the game from that point. And then you've got your Angel of Grace that you can exile from your graveyard to set your life total back to 10 if you're still kind of needing to buy more time to get to your answers. And Lyra Dawnbringer, just a fantastic 5/5 flying first strike lifelink, and synergizes with our Angel of Grace because other angels you control get +1/+1 and have lifelink. So Lyra Dawnbringer just really shuts down a lot of aggressive decks with her first strike and lifelink. So yeah, just a fantastic card. She can kind of win games all on her own. And then the 3 copies, of course, of Fall of the Thran. 4 just kind of feels like it's too many. 2 feels like you don't necessarily find it as often as you need. So 3 copies feels like the right amount. It is 6 mana. You want to make sure you're set up. So 3 feels like the right number to me. Obviously, we do need some planes to tutor up with our Birth of Meletis, running 5. For some additional graveyard interaction, running a copy of Bojuka Bog. When it enters, we exile all cards from our opponent's graveyard. And run a copy of Castle Locthwain for when we need to kind of dig for answers in the mid to late game. 4 swamps. And then, of course, all the dual lands for Godless Shrine, Isolated Chapel, Temple of Silence. Blast Zone, just a fantastic card to kind of blow out like mono white, mono red, things with like a lot of cheap spells, as we can just sack it and then destroy all creatures with equal to the mana cost of however many counters on it. So 1 or 2 will typically be what we're going for, because we do have some Planeswalkers or Banishing Light that are 3 mana, so we're kind of going to be avoiding that, but mostly looking at the 1 and 2 range. Mono white has a ton of 1-drops and 2-drops and things like that. And then Field of Ruin here, just obviously we are trying to blow up our opponent's lands, but while we're getting set up, we may need to take out those non-basic lands a little bit sooner, and Field of Ruin just kind of gives us a little bit of utility. And then, of course, we can always bring it back with Fall of Thran if we need to for some reason. And same thing with Blast Zone. Well, when the second and third chapters go off, we can bring a Blast Zone back just to make sure our opponent does not have any chance of climbing back into the game. And going to the sideboard here, we do need some additional hand disruption against those control matchups. Make sure our Fall of Thran does not get countered. So 3 Duress and 2 more copies of Agonizing Remorse. And also for those super aggressive decks, we got a couple copies of Baffling End. We can exile a creature on our opponent's side with mana cost 3 or less. And then for any deck that's heavy on Planeswalkers, we got a copy of the Elder Spell. It's great because if we do have our Gideon or Kaya out, we can just destroy all the Planeswalkers on our opponent's side, and we get to put loyalty counters on our Planeswalkers. Another way that we can interact with Planeswalkers or anything with an activated ability is Sorcerous Spyglass. Choose a card name, look at our opponent's hand, and then neither player, that includes ourselves, can activate abilities with the name of that chosen card. We also have a copy of Banishing Light, just some additional utility removal. If some of our creature removal isn't enough, we know we need more interaction from Planeswalkers, things like that. 1 copy of Shatter the Sky, just because of Birth of Meletis being able to give us planes a little more consistently. Shatter the Sky just kind of gives us another board wipe that we can guarantee to hopefully cast on turn 4 if we are getting in the face of a lot of creatures. And a couple copies of Eat to Extinction if we need some exile removal for creatures or Planeswalkers. Just 4 mana instant speed. And 2 copies of Heliod's Invention for those artifact heavy or enchantment heavy decks, as we can pay white and X to destroy X target artifacts and or enchantments. Or if we need to, we can just gain a bunch of life. So that's pretty much the deck. And we'll jump into some ranks. Best of 3 and see how it does. So Fall of the Thran is kind of one of those fun build around cards because it has a lot of kind of restrictions on how it works because it affects up against Shadow Man. Four lands, we get the Scry and a couple of removal spells. I'll try. Hand seems pretty decent. Plains, there you go. And there's a Kaya's Wrath, so that feels good. Start with the Scry action. It's going to be a while, but sure, we'll keep it. Of course, it means we'll just draw like 2 more. Opponent on Orzhov. The Orzhov Enforcer. Okay, we don't have anything else, so let's get the Godless Shrine down. Looks like probably up against an Afterlife deck. Nope, Abzan, that's cool. Attack for 1, and I'm just holding up removal. Alright. Works for me. Fine with taking 1 here for a couple turns. Rascal. Okay, so you're just a death touch deck. That's cool.
Go ahead. Beg for mercy. People call me a dead.
Go and fire this off. The Orzhov Enforcer will attack in, get a counter. Go ahead and flip it now. So good Kaya's Wrath, but the Vraska will just put another token out next turn. Go ahead and answer that so they don't get to spam out the free token creature and put the counter here. Any Death Touch creatures they play after this, we have the Kaya's Wrath for. We do need to find some lands though. Taste the Karlov. Okay, so they're Afterlife / Death Touch. Definitely want to deal with the Taste it before they get any value off of it. I'd love to find a couple more lands here. Venda, that's pretty cool. Okay, so we can birth into land, into Mortify. Feels pretty good. Get rid of that Elenda before they get any little bit of value whatsoever. Just got a 1/1 token. Poison Tip Archer is going to ping us for when creatures die. That's okay. We have the Fall of the Thran, but we do need our exile effects though. fire off this Lyra Dawnbringer. Let's see what kind of removal they have. Obviously we can't attack in because the Archer has reach and death touch. Actually, wait a second. Lyra has first strike, so that does answer death touch nicely. So they're going to get back their Teysa. And if they block here, Lyra's got first strike, so she'll kill the Archer before death touch damages though. We'll just go for the Bloodfast and try to find our Leyline. Lyra's going to give us a little bit of life so we can activate this Bloodfast more comfortably. Pretty sweet. Getting the find on the Teysa. We're stuck on 5 lands, so we're just going to drop the Enforcer. They can attack in with their Archer. Not inclined to block with my wall. They should just attack in with their 1/1 though, and start gaining some life back. I'm not sure why they're playing this so defensively. Of course, putting counters to get the Blast Zone up to 4 could be good too, to wipe out the Archer and Teysa at the same time, but we do have Kaya's Wrath as well, so. Love to find some exile effects here. Go ahead and fire off this Birth, kind of thin the deck a little bit. Attack in with Lyra again. I think we just hold up here. And hope we find a Leyline of the Void, and then we can get this Fall of the Thran and Kaya's Wrath going and shut our opponent out. Ixalan's Binding on Lyra. Sure. So when we're ready, we can always hit that with our Banishing Light, or if we find a Mortify, and we get our Lyra back. Looking for that Leyline of the Void. Nope. 2 lands and Kaya. Do need to start playing some stuff out though, rather than discarding. Let's go and fire off the Banishing Light, get our Lyra back, and see what they have to say about that. And yeah, we're still just kind of holding up for a Leyline of the Void. If we had an opening hand, we'd be probably have won this game already. That's cute. Revival Revenge. Alright, we feel like activating our Arguels. So we will keep digging for a Leyline. Go ahead and crash in. Could try to Kaya just to get rid of the 1/1, but I think we'll hold off. 4 Leyline of the Voids, and we can't draw them through half our deck. Sounds Arena. Sounds Magic the Gathering Arena. So we're back up to 15. So we'll probably just blast zone here for get the tokens up to the counters, excuse me, up to 4, and we can hit any Ixalan's Binding, Poison Tip Archer, and Teysa. They got Death Touch, so they could easily attack in here. I'm not sure why they're not. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so 3, yeah. With X charge counters. Our X is 3. Okay, now our blast zone's up to 4. Let's fire off this Agonizing Remorse. Finale. Let's get rid of that one. Blood for Bones is not really doing too much against me. And they can have another fine, that's fine. And yeah, we'll just say go. Now we can fire off this blast zone at any point, or start drawing with Arguels. Let's go ahead and sack our blast zone. That way I won't get any Teysa value off of losing Ministrant. I could just find it back, but then that's going to slow them down quite a bit. Yeah, that's pretty good. Sack their Ministrant right away, get a couple 1/1 flyers. They can chump block our Lyra. And then we'll just bring back Teysa. I think we'll draw here as well. Our Leyline of Void has to be in here somewhere. Attack for 1, sure. Looking for Leyline of the Void, please. There it is. Took long enough. Okay, 3 cards. Three-man open, so we could play Kaya. Exile some stuff from their graveyard. If they go after it, we have the walls that can prevent some of that damage.
So I let myself in.
So get rid of Alenda and the Ministrant. Oh, they can't do any more fine shenanigans. And yeah, we'll just save these lands up for the Fall of the Thran play. Now all of their lands will go to their graveyard unless they have drew the answer for Leyline. Nope, just another Ministrant. Okay, so we should be in good shape. So they're going to go wide a little bit here, that's fine. Send both the flyers. Yeah, we'll soak up 1 damage here with the wall. So take 2.
Please.
Scriptures is pretty good. +1, exile. Doesn't really matter.
Am I? I'm gonna make myself
Alright,
scarce.
how do we want to do this? We could just follow the Thran. We do have Lyra out. They still have to answer that. All their stuff is going to go to exile. And we'll eventually get these lands back for the board wipe. So I think we're okay with that. They got one of their tokens. Okay, we'll just fire it off. I think we're okay. Fire it off now. We do have a pretty decent board state, but we will answer that next turn. We have land for turn, plus another land for turn, plus the 2 lands we get back from Fall of Thran into Kaya's Wrath. I'm just going to attack all face. No. Attacking Kaya with one of them, 2 of them. Alright, so if we block the poison tip, then Kaya survives. Seems like a mistake on their part.
Whoa, that one actually got through.
Alright, make sure we choose properly here. A couple of lands to enter untapped. Alright. We'll go ahead and exile these last 2 cards.
You're back. I'll be back. You better watch your back from here on out.
And let's crash in for 5. Maybe if we get that lifelink value. Fire off to Kaya's Wrath. Do gain some life from that, but then the poison tip is going to chip away at us. But grab 1 land. 2 cards in hand. Yep. Alright. Took us a while to find our Leyline, even though we have 4 of them. But once we got there, we were able to control the board, and voila. Okay, so definitely want these exile effects. Another board clear would be nice. And I'm running enchantment removal. So I'm not going to worry too much about hitting their hand. I'll shave off 1 of each of the planeswalkers. Let's see, I'm going to make room for 3 more. The Birth is nice, but it was pretty medium. Arguels, if they're going to be pinging at us, maybe shave 1 of those. Maybe we'll shave 1 Birth as well, just to kind of make some room. And I do like Scriptures still. I'm sure they're going to have ways of dealing with Leyline the Void, so Scriptures gives us some kind of backup. So maybe we'll shave off 1 cast down since we're pretty board wipe heavy. And we'll try it like that. Alright, again with the Leyline, our opening hand, 3 lands. Perfect. So got the Baffling End and Banishing Light. Okay, plains. Oh, Birth is okay, why not? Lead on forest into plains. Okay, nice slow start from our opponent, we'll take it. And Birth, we'll grab another land, help us curve out. So we've got the Leyline of the Void with the Fall of Thran in hand. So hopefully they don't answer it. Mortify. They did not like that at all. Godless Shrine, say go. That's why I run into 4. We got 3 more in our deck, plus some other ways of exiling your graveyard. T7. Definitely don't want to get rid of that. Godless Shrine. So we do have the 6 lands now. Seraph is good. We have another Banishing Light in hand though. And they are down to 3 cards, so I'll fire that off. We'll drop the plains and we'll have a cast down open for anything else they have, if they have another poison tip archer or something. And you have white open, you're running God's Willing in your Abzan Afterlife deck. Nope. Pass the turn. So just looking for Kaya's Wrath and another Leyline of the Void, and we'll be able to wrap this one up again. Alright, cast down does not target Teysa. It's unfortunate. Cannot attack into us though. We did find our one Arguel's Bloodfast we still had in the deck, so we can start drawing here. Leyline Prowler. It's a good target to kill. Tapped out, so we'll go and fire this off now. See what they hit. Get back their Seraph probably. Yep. Even though they were able to answer it, we slowed them down a little bit. Another land, not what we're looking for. Into another land. Okay, so we're taking 4 in the air. Okay, Leyline Prowler again. Scales hitting for 4. We do need to find some answers, so we'll go and activate. Mortify is okay. So I'm fire that off on Teysa. That's gonna be their biggest value. Temple. We still have 2 lands in hand, so I think we'll fire that off. Scry into. We do need to answer. Baffling in can hit the Prowler. Taking 4 more from Seraph. So we do need to answer that soon. We do have the Mortify. We can hit it on their combat phase and we slow them down a little bit. We're taking 4 here. Banishing Light on our Banishing Light. Get back Teysa, sure. Slowed them down quite a bit, that's fine. Those are actually pretty reasonable Mortify targets as well, because then we'll get our own Banishing Light back, which will just target one of their things, probably the Seraph. I think we actually want to draw into it, so we can find another Leyline. Or even like a Bojuka Bog would be fine. There's a Leyline. Okay, so 4, yep. So we'll fire off Leyline with a Void. See if they have like a Mortify or something. They're going to sacrifice their Seraph. Probably should have responded to this sooner, but just blown away by the opponent's big brain play there. So they have 4 flyers, and we desperately need a way to deal with them. Mortify. Alright, not looking too good. And Alaska.
That interests me. I'm good at killing, but I don't
So we
always.
definitely need a board wipe here or bust. Transform. So we can gain 4, go up to 8, but we're still taking. Well, I guess we're not dead yet. So yeah, pass. Attack all. I'm not sure why you're holding back. Playing around settle. 3. Down to 1. I'm not sure that play makes a whole lot of sense. Lyra. Well, that can buy us some time as well. Leyline Prowler, that's fine. Another 1/1.
And I get along because we're both cutthroats.
Poison Tip Archer is the only thing that can kill us at this point. Alright, Temple. It's a lot of lands in a row, and of course a land. So guaranteed our next draw will be a land as well, because that's Magic the Gathering. Especially here on the good old arena. Mortify. We'll sacrifice it, gain 5. Block one thing, and we're just dead here. My opponent continues to just play around stuff for some reason. Expecting settle. Alright. Game 3 against the Abzan Death Touch Afterlife. We definitely had answers in our deck, we just could not find them in time. Took us forever to get the second Leyline of the Void. We just needed a board clear, and then we could have dropped the Fall of the Thran, which we had in hand, but just how it goes. So we do have the Leyline again, our opening hand. And it's good removal, so yeah, hand seems great. Probably just Temple into Temple. Scrying for more lands. Board wipe. Alright, let's see what we got. Swamp. Yeah, we'll take another land here. For that, just kind of looking for Kaya's Rats. Okay, Fabled Passage. Filling up the Exile bin already. I love it. Forest. Okay, Temple. Angel's okay, but just looking for removal. Don't need our Angel out, for we're just trying to clear the board with a Kaya's Wrath, so let's save that one for later. Our opponent playing nice and slow, that's fine. So now we got the Mortify active. Let's see what their 3-drop is. Banishing Light. Okay, we got the Mortify for that. Not the ideal way to use it. There's 3 Leylines. It's nice to have some redundancy, but we do need some more removal. Okay, and our opponent packs it in. Alright, well that was a pretty decent game 1. Game 2 obviously went our opponent's way, but we hung in there pretty good. We were just board wipe away from winning the game basically. Yeah, it's a pretty decent deck if you're into land destruction, control-y type stuff. Not something I like to play all the time, but it's fun to kind of mix it up sometimes. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.